Good afternoon, people. So we will start with the discussion for GS paper 4, and I would be taking discussion for 6 questions which are asked from the area of role of socialization, moral thinkers, and ethics and human interface. The remaining questions would be discussed by the respective faculties. For example, case study would be taken up by Aditya Kalia sir, and the remaining questions from administrative ethics would be taken by Jatin sir. Okay? So I would be taking up discussion for the 6 questions which have been asked from these areas. Now, I hope that you guys have gone through the paper this year, and many of you might have written your mains also this year. See, one common feedback which we have received from the students was that the paper was lengthy. That was a common feedback which was given by the students. That can be due to some reason that in certain questions, subparts are there. That's one thing, because there was a question of a 10 marker where 5 terms were given, and each term was of 2 marks. So obviously, while writing 2 marks, you cannot just confine yourself in 20, 30 words. When you get down to write, you automatically exceed the word limit. As a result, the paper becomes lengthy. That's one aspect of it. Second aspect is, this time, the questions have been very long. Although the depth was not there in the question when it comes down to the content, but the longevity was there with respect to the statements which were given. So it was consuming a lot of time to read the statements. So there are certain factors which might have made the paper slightly lengthy. Okay? These are certain things. The third important thing which I have noticed with respect to the questions that I'm going to deal with, the paper was not difficult. At least the 6 questions which I'm going to deal, all the 6 questions were not difficult. All you need to do is prepare your base content well. And this we already have talked about time and again whenever the session happens, that first and foremost, you have to be very thorough with the syllabus. Good thing about ethics paper is, under every content, the detailed deconstruction of the syllabus is already been provided to us. For example, if you read ethics and human interface, they have clearly told the topics which they expect you to prepare. For example, attitude, they clearly says what is attitude, content of attitude, or structure of attitude, functions of attitude, moral attitude, political attitude, social influence, persuasion. So in every topic, detailed deconstruction is already being provided. Now it is our job to ensure that every topic is prepared beforehand. I am not saying that is the maximum that you should study. I am saying this is the minimum you should be prepared for. See, after that, if UPSC asks something beyond that, that would be new for everyone. But sticking to your syllabus is the minimum expectation that we have from the aspirants. That please prepare your syllabus well. Especially when it comes down to ethics paper, 250 marks are at stake. So start taking this paper very seriously and prepare your syllabus well. Second thing which I have noticed and which we have been saying also, prepare your terminologies well. It is very important to be prepared with every terminology in the ethics paper. And when I say that you should be prepared with terminology, I mean that you should be prepared with the definition. You should be prepared with the features, the characteristic features or the attributes. You should be prepared with the examples. And while preparing the example, you can prepare the examples from leadership. You can prepare the example from administration. You can prepare the example from sports. You can prepare the examples from cultural text, Ramayana, Mahabharata, etc. You can prepare the examples from your personal life. But you have to be prepared with the examples beforehand. In case you are not prepared, then it takes or consumes time to think about the example on the spot. Automatically, paper becomes lengthy. So it is very important that the examples have to be prepared beforehand, and there is no substitute for examples. Because abhi hum discuss karenge, if you are just hovering around the argument, you would not be able to write beyond 50 words. It is example which not only enriches your answer, but also enables you to elaborate the explanation part in your answer. Otherwise, you end up repeating the points in every other question. So you should have a good collection of examples. That will also help you not to repeat your examples in the same paper. फॉर एग्जाम्पल आप क्वेश्चंस पूछते हैं इंटेग्रिटी पे, कंपैशन पे, तो अगर कोई एडमिनिस्ट्रेटिव ऑफिशियल का एग्जाम्पल आप देते हो तो वो इंटेग्रिटी में भी आ रहा है, कंपैशन में भी आ रहा है, विजडम में भी आ रहा है, करेज में भी आ रहा है. एक ही एग्जाम्पल हर जगह थोड़ी ना लिख देंगे. तो यू शुड हैव एटलीस्ट कलेक्शन ऑफ 7-8 एग्जाम्पल्स फ्रॉम एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन. यू शुड हैव कलेक्शन ऑफ 4-5 एग्जाम्पल्स फ्रॉम leadership. You should have collection of examples from your personal life. Because many a times UPSC has a tendency to ask, explain by giving examples from your personal life. So in that case, it becomes very important. नहीं तो उस टाइम पे अगर सोचने बैठते हो तो ऐसा लगता है पिछले 21 सालों में कुछ हुआ ही नहीं, क्योंकि पर्सनल लाइफ से कोई एग्जाम्पल याद नहीं आ रहा होता है और फिर वो टाइम अननेसेसरली वेस्ट हो जाता है. इज दैट वेरी क्लियर फॉर एवरीवन? Please refer PYQs. There is no standard book for ethics. That's the challenge as far as this section is concerned. Obviously, there might be some books which are available in the market, but those books are specifically for UPSC point of view. As in, कोई ethics पे बोलकर कोई standard book या academic book doesn't exist, right? So in that context, the reference point which will enable us to streamline the preparation is PYQ. And this time, one quotation-based question was ad verbatim repeated. The statement by Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam. The same question was asked in 2017. The same question is asked this year. So PYQs solve करने से दो फायदे होते हैं. पहला, you understand the themes based on which UPSC has been asking the question. And sometimes there is a tendency to repeat the question, and both helps you to streamline the preparation. For example, how do we get an idea when we guide you? How do we get an idea that in what capacity a particular section has to be prepared? Based on PYQs. For example, there is a standard thing which we have noticed, that UPSC has a tendency to ask questions on values. They do ask questions on emotions. We have seen either they would be asking question on value or they would be asking question on emotions, or in the same year the question can be asked on both. तो अब हम ये expect कर सकते हैं students से, you will be preparing values and emotions. Now the question arises, when we know that UPSC is asking questions, तो कैसे prepare करें? पहली बात तो पता होना चाहिए what are values. You should know what are the characteristic features of values. Then you should know what are the examples of desirable values. ये first stage है. I'm just giving you an idea with respect to one topic that how you should proceed. You should know what are values. You should know what are the characteristic feature of values. You should know what are the examples of values. Let us say, do we agree integrity is a value? Do we all agree to this? Integrity is a value. Compassion is a value. Empathy is a value. These are basic values. तो जब आप integrity पढ़ोगे, you will prepare what do you mean by integrity. You will prepare how integrity is manifested. And then you will be giving examples from different walks of life of people who have exhibited the value of integrity. And then you will prepare how to develop the value of integrity. आपको पता है क्वेश्चन ऐसे ही बन रहा है. So you have to prepare certain important set of values on which the probability of asking the question is very high. For example, integrity. For example, compassion. For example, wisdom. पहला ही क्वेश्चन है विजडम पे, एक्सपेक्टेड है. देयर इज अ क्वेश्चन ऑन एम्पैथी एंड कंपैशन, एक्सपेक्टेड है. देयर इज अ क्वेश्चन लास्ट ईयर ऑन इंटेग्रिटी, वेरी मच एक्सपेक्टेड क्वेश्चन. क्योंकि हमको पता है वैल्यूज पे सवाल आएगा, तो पहले से तैयार करके जाओ यार. There are 7-8 important values, and you can get reference to those values. For example, Nolan Committee report. For example, second ARC. They have been talking about what are the basic conduct which a civil servant should possess. So there are certain set of qualities which are expected in a civil servant. On those values, the chances of asking the question is very high. And this is how you prepare yourself. So prepare a write-up on every value. For example, if the question comes, then आपका example भी पहले से तैयार होना चाहिए. और examples थोड़े innovative होने चाहिए, which every other person is not writing. Search on Google, example of efficient administrative officers in India. You will get, there are so many good administrative officers who have done commendable work. You will get the list of examples. We have Mr. Avnish Saran. We have Prashant Nair. We have Alex Paul Menon. You have so many, Armstrong Pambi. You have so many good examples of the administrative officials which have done significant work. Look for those examples and try to prepare the content. Hands down question would be there. So any investment made here would not be a bad investment if you go by cost benefit analysis. Even if this is not there in your ethics paper, this is preparing the fodder for your philosophical essays. Philosophical essays की भी तो यही theme होती है, courage, integrity, compassion, इसी philosophies पे essays पूछे जाते हैं. So underlying essence में this provides you the fodder for your philosophical essays as well. Is that very clear for everyone? ठीक है. And lastly, no matter how much you are preparing, if you don't practice writing answers, the content would not help you. और उसका reason है, if you look at the essay questions, you all know the answers. Something or the other can be written. There would not be a single question in ethics paper which you will say, I cannot write. You can write something about everything in the ethics paper. But to secure more than 100, और 100 से ऊपर तो आजकल उतना matter भी नहीं करेगा, more than 120 in your ethics paper, the answers should stand out. You should learn the art of crisp answer writing. And for that, you need to practice your answer writing. And the best thing to, कभी-कभी लोग पूछते हैं कि मैम, even if we are practicing answer writing, how to know that whether we are on the right track or not? Make the papers of toppers as your reference point. There are so many topper scripts which are uploaded on Vision's platform, on the resource tab. Go look for them. You will automatically understand that if that kind of writing is fetching marks, so whether you are in the right direction or not. Or you can join any test series or any guidance, whichever you find convenience. But at the stage of just initiating the preparation, with respect to answer writing, you can refer to the scripts of the topper. Trust me, it's a good reference point. It gives you a lot of good examples also. It gives you a lot of good style of answer writing. Sometimes you are thinking of making an hub and spoke model in your answer, but you exactly don't know how to incorporate that. But the moment you see the topper script and they have incorporated that style of writing, it becomes easy to understand. So topper scripts can also be a good reference point. Is that very clear for everyone? Okay. So on this note, we will start with the discussion. Read the first question. One disclaimer. Ethics में there is no model answer. Ethics में everyone can have different interpretation to the question. You can have your own different examples. This is basic minimum that we are discussing. That this is how the answer can be structured. Read the question. Apart from intellectual competency and moral quality, empathy and compassion are some of the vital attributes which facilitate the civil servant to be more competent in tackling crucial issues or taking critical decision. Explain with suitable illustration. Even if they would not have mentioned illustration, you have to give examples to explain your viewpoint. But the moment they write suitable illustration, that means for every argument, now you have to write the example. Now it has become a compulsory thing. Initially, it could have been a choice, but the moment they mention, it means they are asking you to cite the examples to justify your arguments. Question पढ़ के क्या समझ आया? Clearly वो ये कह रहे हैं कि आज के टाइम पे critical issues होते हैं, decision making on crucial issues is required, for which there are 4 things which are required: intellectual competency, moral quality, empathy, and compassion. However, since the question says apart from intellectual competency and moral quality, that means they are assuming that this much you know, that to be a good civil servant, intellectual competency and moral quality are required. But what more is supposed to be done is value of empathy and compassion. So now the choice is कि intellectual competency and moral quality, you could have just written a statement that what is intellectual competency, what do you mean by having the moral quality, but that is not the main content. Main content is empathy and compassion through examples. That's the main content of your answer. Is that very clear? How you intend? It's a 10-marker question. I am giving you a detailed answer only because what if the same question is not repeated, and this time the question is asked where the focus is on intellectual competency and moral quality. So in that context, I'm giving you a detailed answer, but I'm telling you that what is or how it should be written. You start with a basic premise that in the growing time of social complexities, which has been increased because of various factors, the responsibility of civil servant in order to deal with crucial issues has significantly increased. एक लाइन में आप प्रीमाइस बता दो, जिससे क्या होता है, लगता है कि आपने क्वेश्चन को इंट्रोड्यूस करा है. चॉइस आपकी है, आप कैसे प्रीमाइस को देना चाहते हो और हाउ यू इंटेंड टू इनिशिएट योर आंसर, दैट चॉइस इज योर्स. I chose that since there is more rapid penetration of technology, there is pluralistic nature of society, there is growing inequality, hence the social complexities have increased. Therefore, the responsibility of civil servant has increased. There are certain attributes which are expected out of a civil servant. Now, what are those attributes? The first is intellectual competency and moral quality. इतने डिटेल में आपको नहीं लिखना. ये कंटेंट मैंने दिया, आप सिर्फ एक लाइन में लिखोगे. Intellectual competency refers to the ability of a civil servant to analyze the situation and come up with the innovative solutions. Or you can say that intellectual competency refers to the ability of applying the knowledge in the right capacity. Intellectual competency is not just about the knowledge, it is also about the wisdom to use the knowledge. फॉर एग्जाम्पल, अगर आपको कोई पॉलिसी लानी है, जैसे कि डेटा प्रोटेक्शन बिल, या फिर विथ रिस्पेक्ट टू डिजिटल इंडिया लॉ, या फाइनेंशियल पॉलिसी यू हैव टू क्रिएट, यू नीड टू हैव द इंटेलेक्चुअल कॉम्पिटेंसी. सो हैविंग द इंटेलेक्चुअल कॉम्पिटेंसी इज द नेसेसरी कंडीशन फॉर एफिशिएंसी इन द एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन. एक लाइन में आपको बस ये चीज समझानी है. देन यू विल राइट दैट हाउ द कॉम्पिटेंसी विदाउट मॉरल्स इज मोर डेट्रीमेंटल. और ये लाइन पे क्वेश्चन अक्सर यूपीएससी पूछता है. एक मुझे याद है, वॉरेन बफेट का स्टेटमेंट पूछा था यूपीएससी ने, that when you recruit people in the organization, you look for 3 qualities: integrity, intelligence, and energy. But in the absence of one, that is integrity, the other 2 will kill you. Did you get the point? You have the intellectual competency, but you don't have the morals. It would be more detrimental, because chances of getting swayed away by corruption would be very high. Is that very clear? So, agar I have given the example of Alex Paul Menin because he is very upright officer. He is an example of not only having the intellectual competency, but also the moral quality. Is that clear? You can give more examples of honest, upright officers. There have been officers who have unfolded the corruption cases despite being the pressure which is being created by different lobbies. So you can give any example of IAS officers or other officers who have exhibited not only the intellectual competency but also the moral quality. Is that very clear? However, apart from these quality, there are 2 things which are very important. यहाँ से main content start होता है. यहाँ पे compromise नहीं करेंगे. For example, empathy and compassion. अब अगर आपने values तैयार करी हैं, तो हमने empathy की definition तैयार करी होगी. Imaginatively placing yourself in the position of others so as to understand their situation. But compassion is one step ahead of empathy, that you are not only understanding their situation, you are also providing the solution. तो आपने बताया what is empathy, आपने बताया what is compassion, and now you would be talking about the examples. So what I did was, in order to link, I am saying why empathy and compassion is required, especially among the civil servants, because bureaucracy currently is confronting challenges from within the system. There is a problem of top-down approach. There is a problem of elitism. There is a problem of apathy. There is a problem of trivialization. There is a problem of large power distance between the administration and citizen. There is problem of corruption, red tapeism. So in this context, having empathy and compassion is indispensable. क्योंकि अगर empathy और compassion होगा, you will never neglect the needs of the common man. You will never be indifferent to the needs of common man. You will never be swayed away by corruption, because you are able to place yourself in the position of others. You will never practice elitism. There will never be a power distance, because you will be more concerned about the needs of the vulnerable sections. So in that case, empathy and compassion becomes the indispensable quality. अब आप एग्जाम्पल्स जितने देना चाहो दे सकते हो, पर उतना स्कोप है नहीं, तो कम से कम 4 एग्जाम्पल्स, क्योंकि सूटेबल इलस्ट्रेशन बोला है, तो एटलीस्ट 4 एग्जाम्पल्स you can write. For example, the examples which I have chosen, it helps in resolving the problems of common man if you have empathy and compassion. For example, Dhyaneshwar Mule, he started the passport movement which streamlined the process and made it easier for the people to get the passport. You could have quoted the example of Kiran Bedi when she introduced the reforms in the prison, because she was compassionate, she was empathetic, she could understand the problems faced by the prisoner, and that is why she introduced the reforms in the prison. Again, that could have been the example which can be quoted. Similarly, it helps in understanding the hardships of the vulnerable sections and providing them the relief. I have taken 2 examples here. One is Sandeep Naduri. He has started a cafe able for differently abled people. He realized that among the differently abled people, one of the challenges is economic empowerment. And why economic empowerment is the challenge? Lack of job opportunity. So he initiated the concept, not only empathized, but shown compassion, and he initiated the concept of cafe able for differently abled people. So this can be written as an example. Similarly, Avnish Saran, he initiated the concept of bike ambulance at the doorstep of the tribal people, which has reduced the medical cost by 90%. Not only empathizing with the problems of tribals, but also providing the solution. Did you get my point? Similarly, with respect to establishing infrastructure, you could have quoted the example of Miracle Man, Armstrong Palme, who had constructed 100-kilometer road for the people living in the remotest village of Manipur. That example could have been cited here. Or you could have written the example of Shashanka Ala. With respect to, she was placed as a district magistrate in one of the most remotest area of Mizoram. And she found that in the midday meal, she had enrolled her own child in the Anganwadi. And once the child was coming back from the school, he was carrying uncooked rice and dal. So then she asked why it is uncooked. So it was realized that people do not have access to fruits, vegetables, or perishable product, because the connectivity was the issue. So people were given uncooked food, the children. So then in order to solve that problem, she empathized with the needs of the people and she provided a solution, and the solution was My School, My Farm. कि हर स्कूल उस एरिया में अपना किचन गार्डन और फार्म क्रिएट करेगा. They will produce their own fruits and vegetables so as to provide the necessary nutrition to the children through midday meal. You can quote any, there is a very long list of good, efficient officials. You can write anything that you want. Similarly, with respect to protecting the rights of the people, Operation Suleimani by Prashant Nair. Right to food with dignity. Or the example of IPS Rema Rajeshwari, who has protected or rescued 1,200 child brides. Again, right to life with dignity. So if you have empathy and compassion, it will guide you to take the right decision. इंटेलेक्चुअल कॉम्पिटेंसी होगी नहीं तो आपको आइडियाज ही नहीं आएंगे हाउ टू रिजॉल्व द प्रॉब्लम. मॉरल्स होंगे तो आप अपनी नॉलेज को राइट डायरेक्शन में ले जा पाओगे. एम्पैथी और कंपैशन होगा तो यू वुड बी एबल टू प्लेस योर सेल्फ इन द पोजिशन ऑफ अदर्स एंड ट्राई टू प्रोवाइड द सोल्यूशन एट द ग्रास रूट लेवल. So all 4 qualities are required. And how to develop that 4 qualities? The best way is right kind of socialization. ये मेरा ओपिनियन है, आप डिसएग्री भी कर सकते हो. मुझे हमेशा लगता है कि अगर कोट्स वगैरह पे कमांड है, ट्राई टू कंक्लूड योर आंसर राइटिंग अ कोटेशन. I'm just giving a suggestion. I'm not saying it is mandatory. Write something. जो वो कहते हैं ना, लास्ट पंच बहुत इंपैक्टफुल होना चाहिए, तो एक लाइन में कुछ भी ऐसा, या फिर प्रिस्क्रिप्शन दे दो. दैट्स द इजीएस्ट वे आउट. आपने ये एस्टैब्लिश कर दिया कि एम्पैथी कंपैशन इज रिक्वायर्ड. एक लाइन में प्रिस्क्राइब कर दो हाउ टू डेवलप एम्पैथी एंड कंपैशन. वैल्यू बेस्ड एजुकेशन सिस्टम और राइट काइंड ऑफ सोशलाइजेशन, whichever way you are comfortable, but do conclude the answer. Are we clear on this first question? Is there anything that you've not understood? But point is not whether you've understood the question or not, because it was a simple question. The purpose is, did you understand how to prepare? You prepare the definition, you prepare the features, you prepare the examples. Padho. It is believed that adherence to ethics in human action would ensure smooth functioning of any organization. If so, what does ethics seeks to promote in human life? How do ethical values assist in resolution of conflict faced by him in day-to-day functioning? इसलिए पेपर लेंदी हो गया. क्वेश्चन पढ़ने में समय ज्यादा लग रहा है, ठीक है. And if you realize there are 3 parts to the question. However, first part is not, do you understand prioritizing the content? Right? So there are 3 parts, but all 3 parts have not to be given equal weightage. First part would be given less weightage and more weightage would be given to the second and the third part. So the first part says, adherence to ethics in human actions would ensure smooth functioning. अगर सिर्फ ये स्टेटमेंट करके छोड़ देते ना तो हम इसको मेंशन भी नहीं करते. उसके बाद उन्होंने एक चीज लिख दी, इफ सो, यानी वो आपकी ओपिनियन मांग रहे हैं इस स्टेटमेंट पे, इसलिए आपको एथिक्स की डेफिनेशन देनी पड़ेगी. अदरवाइज हम वो चीज छोड़ देते. अगर इफ सो नहीं लिखा होता और फुल स्टॉप देके आ जाता व्हाट डज एथिक्स सीक्स टू प्रमोट, तो हम डायरेक्टली सेकंड पार्ट ऑफ द क्वेश्चन पे आ जाते. बट इफ सो लिख दो, या इन द कॉन्टेक्स्ट ऑफ दिस स्टेटमेंट, या इलस्ट्रेट, अगर कोई भी कीवर्ड आ जाता है स्टेटमेंट के बाद, देन इट बिकम्स नेसेसरी टू डील विद द स्टेटमेंट. सो इन दिस पर्टिकुलर क्वेश्चन यू कैन डील विद द स्टेटमेंट. फॉर एग्जाम्पल, you can start with what is the definition of ethics, any definition that you like. So ethics is referred as a prescriptive code of conduct which helps in guiding the actor in a situation with respect to rightness and wrongness of the action. You can choose any definition. Ethics refers to a mental construct which acts as an instrument for behavior regulation. It guides our decision making, influences our choices, or directs our behavior. Any definition which you have prepared, you can write in the beginning. Is that very clear for everyone? ठीक है. Now the question arises that when you adhere to ethics, आपको एक बात समझ आती है, paraphrase करना, to remain connected with the statement or the question which has been asked. हम वो कर रहे हैं यहाँ पर अब, कि adherence to ethics will help us to differentiate between right and wrong, fair and unfair, acceptable and unacceptable. And if you are able to discriminate between these things, automatically it results into smooth functioning of any organization or society. अब second part आता है that what does ethics seeks to do in the human life? Seeks to promote in human life. ये question UPSC पहले भी पूछ चुका है. Significance of ethics in human or individual and societal well-being. What is the significance of ethics in individual and societal well-being? This question has already been asked by UPSC in the past. Do you realize it's a similar statement? What ethics seeks to promote in human life? अब human life तो individual level पे भी देख सकते हैं और collective level पे भी. आप देख लो. At individual level, what it seeks to promote? Peace of mind, joy, happiness, sense of fulfillment. जब कुछ अच्छा करते हैं मन में खुशी होती है. Today we have done something right. It reduces cognitive dissonance. It helps in improving your credibility. If you are an ethical person, trust me, you have a lot of credibility in the society because you would be acting as a role model for many people out there. So ethics have a very significant role at the individual level. Similarly, it plays a very significant role at societal level. If all of us are ethical, there would be harmony, there would be peace, we will be more tolerant towards each other, conflict will automatically reduce. We all are morally virtuous because we are ethical. It will lead to establishment of morally virtuous society. It would lead to character building of every individual in the society. So this is the objective of ethics to promote in the human life at individual level and at collective level. But जो सबसे important objective आ जाता है, अगर हम सब ethical हैं और हमें अपने ethics पता हैं, it will help us in resolving dilemmas. We confront or we are confronted with dilemmas on a very daily basis. ये करें या ये करें. But अगर ethical हैं, तो it is becoming easier for us to resolve the dilemma. And it results into quick decision making. वही third part है question का. Read the third part. How do ethical values assist in resolution of conflict faced by an individual in day-to-day functioning? So conflict resolution among the competing values, at the same time ensuring quick decision making. And this becomes the part. Try to write examples here. Everyday life पूछा है, day-to-day functioning में. Let us assume we are a doctor. There is a conflict in day-to-day functioning, whether to prescribe a branded medicine or a generic medicine. If you are an ethical person, the conflict can be resolved. Suppose you are an administrative official, whether you should serve the public duty or you should serve your own vested interest by getting indulged in corruption. If you are an ethical person, you exactly know what needs to be done. Is it making sense? Let us suppose you have to make a decision with respect to any developmental project, which might lead to development in the wrong run, but is causing damage to the environment. So if you are an ethical person, you would be able to resolve this conflict. Are you getting the point? Okay. So the point here which I'm trying to make is that ethics helps us to resolve the conflict that we are facing in day-to-day functioning of the life. And max 3 examples are required, not beyond that, because that's not the only content, that is the third part of the content. तो 3 examples, 2 भी लिख दोगे तो भी काम चल जाएगा. But 3 मैं इसलिए बोल रही हूँ कि हम first part को थोड़ा सा confine कर रहे हैं. So in this part you can take the liberty to give more examples, but 3 examples would be more than enough. Just have a quick look at the examples. For example, एक statement होता है, ethics is the first line of defense against corruption or deviance, but law is often remedial and reactive. तो point यहाँ पे मैं ये कह रही हूँ, if you are an ethical person, even though the law is silent on some things, you would be able to make the right decision. So you would be able to overcome the conflict. For example, if there has to be a situation where you have to employ your faculty of conscience, conscience matlab intuition, with respect to the moral aspect of the decision. Let us suppose you are an administrator who is supposed to provide the subsidized ration to the poor and hungry people, but the condition is that it should be linked with Aadhaar. But due to some exclusion errors, the people did not have Aadhaar-linked ration card. So now whether conflict hai, crisis of conscience hai, whether to give the ration or not. But if you are a morally virtuous person, you exactly know what needs to be done. Is it making sense for everyone? So you have innumerable examples which can be cited. Trust me, all you need to do is give more examples. Similarly, we all know यार, जब population ज़्यादा होती है, तो we don't have resources for everyone. Suppose there is some disaster which has happened. In that context, you need to prioritize the beneficiary. So you would always be under a conflict that which beneficiary first needs to be prioritized. In this context also, ethics come to the rescue. So providing relief during the time of disaster. Is it making sense for everyone? Now, another major challenge which we might face is that we are a pluralist society. There are too much diversity which is existing, which creates the potential for cultural conflict. But if we are ethical people, we would be able to resolve those cultural conflict without being biased or prejudiced towards any one community. So that is the role of ethics. Is that very clear? क्योंकि day-to-day functioning बोली थी, तो do not restrict your answer to administrative officials. Write common examples as well. Is this clear? तो lastly क्या करें? कंक्लूजन रिमार्क में 2-3 तरीके होते हैं. या तो आप कोटेशन से एंड कर देते हो, जो एक ओवरऑल इन्फरेंस, या फिर आप प्रिस्क्राइब कर देते हो, या आप एक स्टेटमेंट देके ऑब्जर्वेशन दे देते हो दैट व्हाट यू हैव ऑब्जर्व्ड. So we have observed that ethics play a very significant role in overcoming our inner evils or vices. For example, anger, lust, greed, desire, jealousy. It helps us to achieve right ends through right means. So if agar ethics honge place mein, your goals will also be right and the means to achieve the goals would also be right. So that is the objective of ethics. So in that context, it would be easy for us to overcome the crisis of conscience or any kind of conflict resolution. Is it clear for everyone? Is everyone, even at the back, are you understanding what we are trying to discuss here? Read the question. पिछले वाले क्वेश्चन का नहीं? अच्छा, पार्ट बी वो जतन सर करेंगे यार. I have to discuss 6 questions. I said 9 in the beginning of the lecture, so I'm discussing. Acha, yeah. Next. हाँ जी. सिर्फ कोटेशन बेस्ड क्वेश्चन को कोट से स्टार्ट नहीं करना चाहिए. रेस्ट एवरी क्वेश्चन कैन बी स्टार्टेड. अभी जो हम क्वेश्चन नंबर 3 के 3 पार्ट्स डिस्कस करेंगे, दोस कोटेशन बेस्ड क्वेश्चन, दैट शुड नॉट बी स्टार्टेड विद अ कोट बिकॉज इट क्रिएट्स अ कंफ्यूजन व्हिच कोट आर यू आंसरिंग. So that should not be the case. Otherwise, you can start. Next, online methodology is being used in day-to-day meetings, institutional approvals in administration. For teaching, learning in education sector, telemedicine in health sector is also getting popular. No doubt, it has advantages and disadvantages for both beneficiary and the system. Full stop. Describe and discuss the ethical issues which are involved in the use of online method, particularly with respect to vulnerable section of society. What is the question here? It's a 10-marker question. The question is only the last statement. Exactly. What are the ethical components involved with respect to online methodology, keeping in mind the vulnerable section of society? बाकी सारी कहानियां हैं कि कहां ऑनलाइन मेथडोलॉजी यूज हो रही है. तो जब आप एग्जाम्पल दोगे तो इन योर सबकॉन्शियस माइंड यू कैन थिंक ऑफ ऑनलाइन एजुकेशन, टेलीमेडिसिन, e-governance, वो सारी चीजें, right? So that could be in your subconscious mind while giving the arguments, but the main content is the last statement which is required. Is that very clear? Now what I have done, I have given slightly detailed content when it comes down to advantages and disadvantages, only for your reference. जब आप एग्जाम में लिखते तो आप एक आध स्टेटमेंट में उस चीज को खत्म कर सकते थे, because main content is the last statement. So let's get back to it. एक premise, मुझे हमेशा लगता है कि इंट्रोडक्शन हर आंसर में होना चाहिए, चाहे एक ही लाइन में लिखो. That digital sphere has transformed day-to-day functioning of our life, especially with the onset of Industrial Revolution 4.0 and Web 3.0. But this is where I wanted to draw the attention that COVID-19 has further given the impetus to the online methodology in various sectors. So in one line, you could have given the premise to start the answer. Now, advantages and disadvantages is your choice. It is not to be written in detail. Again, I'm saying I'm just giving you the content fodder. This is not supposed to be written in detail. So what are the advantages of online methodology? Do we realize with online education, telemedicine, the problem of availability, accessibility, affordability has been resolved to a considerable extent? Second thing is, in online system, there is more accountability, more transparency, more governance. So in that context, it will ensure better efficiency with respect to service delivery. Is it making sense for everyone, right? So these are the basic advantages of going online. However, there are certain disadvantages. There is issue with respect to cyber security. There is issue with respect to privacy. There are issues with respect to digital learning gap. Not everyone is equally placed to reap the benefits of the online methodology. Not only that, social depersonalization. Interpersonal relations are taking a toll because most of the time you are sitting online. It is having negative impact on the health. In fact, there is one concept which we have used here, that is work from home. Society में question आया था, work from home का impact on family relation. आप वो एक point लिख सकते थे, both in advantage as well as disadvantage. That how it has resulted into breaking the traditional sexual division of labor and has strengthened the family relationship. But at the same time, it has increased the vulnerability of women in the family. So online methodology, by online methodology में work from home भी तो आएगा ना. You have access to online methodology. That is why you are able to work from home. So that could have been added here. Try to utilize what you have attempted in other paper in the respective papers. But यहाँ से main content start होता है. That fine, we are saying online methodology has its share of advantages and disadvantages. But what is the ethical component? Do we agree that equality of opportunity is a desirable value? So we are providing online methodology to increase accessibility, affordability, availability of the services. But then the challenge comes with respect to the vulnerable section. First of all, they don't have the gadgets. If they have the gadgets, they don't know how to use the gadgets. Even if you make them learn how to use the gadget, the penetration of internet becomes the challenge. So these basic differences which are existing further aggravates the inequality in the society. That becomes the ethical concern. So equality of opportunity is a desirable value. It is considered to be ethical to create equality of opportunity, to ensure good governance, to ensure efficiency in service delivery. But if you do not have requisite infrastructure, it becomes a challenge. अब vulnerable section पूछा है, with respect to gender लिख सकते हैं, with respect to tribals लिख सकते हैं, rural urban divide लिख सकते हैं. All those points can be mentioned here. Is that very clear? Similarly, with respect to children, more exposure to online methodology is having negative impact on their health. It is generating more social comparisons. It is generating more relative deprivation. It is resulting into problem of anxiety, depression, or getting trapped in the ill practices on social media. Then again becomes the challenge. And children also forms the part of vulnerable sections, because they don't know how to differentiate between what is right and what is wrong. So in the absence of right kind of socialization, their vulnerability further gets aggravated. लिखो वो सारे points. बात करो, young population is also vulnerable nowadays. Young population is becoming victim of hacking, phishing, that is, जामताड़ा सुना होगा? तो hacking, phishing, they are becoming the victim of that. Radicalization of youth. That is again another challenge which is emerging. Not only that, misuse of the data. The data which is being collected by various online platforms, it is breaching the privacy. There is cyber threats which are emerging. The same data is being misused to manipulate the people, or the misinformation which is getting spread. That again is becoming the challenge. Especially in context of old age भी लिख सकते हो. You are providing telemedicine, but old people is still not very comfortable with the idea of online health consultation which is being provided. That becomes a challenge. So in order to reap the benefits of online methodology, first of all, right kind of attitude, right kind of protection measures, right kind of infrastructure needs to be created. And most importantly, right kind of values so that you do not misuse the technology. Is it making sense for everyone? It's just a 10 marker. इस बार questions बिल्कुल भी difficult नहीं है. You just have to write the right kind of examples. That's it. Is it making sense for everyone? मुझे ये मोहम्मद यूनुस का statement अच्छा लगता है. So whenever we talk about technology, I do tend to mention the statement, while technology is important, it's what we do with it that truly matters. So the problem does not lie with online methodology. In fact, that's a boon, right? But the problem is how you intend to use it. So what is the need of the hour? Educate, inform the citizens, address digital divide, mechanism to check the misuse, value-based education to inculcate ethics to prevent any frauds or crime. Is it making sense for everyone? Is there anything which you've not understood so far? अच्छा, ये तो छोड़ो, मुद्दे की बात. Structure दिख रहा है आंसर में. Introduction, body and conclusion. पहली चीज. दूसरी चीज, are you understanding what all can be written in the conclusion? Are you understanding in introduction you can either start with the definition, or you can start with an example, or you can start with the premise. So there are different ways in which the introduction could be written, but there has to be introduction, body and conclusion. When there are subparts to the question, you need to learn to prioritize the subparts. And most importantly, without examples, ethics answer writing cannot be done. So examples is the key to fetch more marks. Is this clear? Now we are coming down to the statement-based questions. Before we start with statement-based question, standard way of writing. You will never go wrong, even in your philosophical essays also. Philosophical essays क्या होते हैं? यही जो 10 नंबर का स्टेटमेंट यहाँ पूछा है, वहाँ 125 नंबर में पूछ लेंगे. कोई खास फर्क नहीं आता. सेकेंड चीज, यू कैन नेवर प्रिडिक्ट. आप एथिक्स के क्वेश्चन में सिर्फ फिर भी आपको हेल्प कर सकती हूँ ये बताने में कि किस तरह के क्वेश्चन यूपीएससी पूछ सकता है. बट व्हेन इट गेट डाउन टू द स्टेटमेंट बेस्ड क्वेश्चन, वी कैन नेवर प्रिडिक्ट. हाँ, but there are key areas. For example, Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam. For example, Mahatma Gandhi. For example, Swami Vivekanand. For example, Dalai Lama. For example, Socrates, Aristotle. These are few areas where UPSC has a tendency to ask the statements given by these people. But having said that, you cannot predict. Okay? So you have to learn the skill of attempting these questions because we can't predict. Okay? So this is how it has to be done. The best thing, if you read the question, it says, what does the quotation means to you? So even if you don't know the context in which the quotation has been given by the concerned personality, that is absolutely fine. Because anyway, they are asking what quotation means to you. So you can start with the interpretation of the statement. Once you have interpreted the statement, then all the keywords can be explained. While providing the explanation, you will justify your arguments with examples. And if you will notice, abhi hum तीनों statements करेंगे, you will notice one thing, that every statement has an underlying wisdom. Ethics tells you the difference between what right you have and what is right to do. तो वो हमें एक तरह से underlying value दे रहा है कि ethics is the need of the hour. तो लास्ट में आप प्रिस्क्राइब कर सकते हो हाउ टू शेप द एथिक्स ऑफ द सोसाइटी. सिमिलरली, जज योर सक्सेस ऑन द बेसिस ऑफ व्हाट यू हैव टू गिव अप टू अटेन दैट. अगेन इट इज सेइंग एन अंडरलाइंग विजडम दैट सक्सेस शुड नॉट बी calculated on the basis of quantitative aspect but the qualitative aspect. So again, you can define the prescription. So prescription can be the easiest way of writing the conclusion in the statement-based questions. Is that very clear for everyone? We'll see each and every question. This becomes introduction. This is the body, and this is the conclusion. Standard way of writing. Read the question. Ethics is knowing the difference between what you have the right to do and what is right to do. You tell me what the statement is saying. Simple, anyone in the class. What are you understanding by the statement? Exactly. So can we say, अगर हमें trace ही करना है कि syllabus में से कहाँ से आया है, so can this be ethics vis-a-vis law? You might have a legal right to do something, but that may not be the right thing to do. So that difference is what ethics tells us. For example, we do not have the obligation to report a crime which is happening. You would not be legally penalized if you don't report a crime. Suppose there is an incident of domestic violence happening in your neighborhood. You are under no obligation to report the domestic violence incident. But do you think is it right not to report? So ethics tells you what is your right and what is right. So even though you are not under any kind of legal obligation to report the crime which is happening around, but it is the right thing to report the crime if it is happening. Suppose there is some accident which has happened on the road. Again, you are under no legal obligation to help the person. But what is the right thing to do? To help the person. Good Samaritan conduct. Did you get the point? Similarly, you have witnessed a crime, right? And you have to appear as a witness in the court. Again, you don't have any legal obligation. But the ethics says that we should develop the courage and appear as a witness in the criminal cases. Is that very clear? Again, the same doctor wala example. You have absolute right to prescribe the branded medicine, even if the generic variant is available. But do you think it is the right thing to do? No. You are an administrative official. You have absolute right to demolish any illegal encroachment. But doing that on a winter night, do you think it is the right thing to do? In context of Shakur Basti, case आया था. So Shakur Basti के case में illegal encroachment था, इसलिए demolish करना था. And it is absolutely right to demolish illegal encroachment. But doing that on a winter night was not the right thing to do. Mancading. It is absolutely legal because the rule says so. But many believe it goes against the spirit of the game. Moonlighting. Overarching law नहीं है. विप्रो ने अभी हटाया है 300 स्टाफ को ड्यू टू मून लाइटिंग, बट ओवरआर्किंग लॉ इज नॉट एग्जिस्टिंग. आपके इंडिविजुअल कॉन्ट्रैक्चुअल ऑब्लिगेशन हो सकते हैं विद रिस्पेक्ट टू डिफरेंट कंपनीज, बट ओवरऑल द लॉ इज नॉट एग्जिस्टिंग. बट डू यू थिंक इट इज द राइट थिंग टू डू? You're not doing justice to any of the organization for which you are working. That goes against the value system of commitment, loyalty, conflict of interest. Absolutely yes. So did you get my point what I'm trying to say? अब ये सारी चीज़ दिमाग में आई, यही लिखना है, बस इतना सा आंसर था. There is nothing else which is required. So you start with what is ethics. And you mentioned, remember, ethics is the first line of defense. Or where law ends, ethics begin. Breaking promises between friends. Absolutely fine, legally. You cannot be put behind the bars for that. But do you think it's the ethical thing to do? Obviously not. That's our friends for. There should be something called loyalty, commitment towards your friends. These little things can make examples in your answer. Because it shows that whether you are able to apply the statement to the bottom root level or not. So give academic examples, give everyday examples, that's totally your choice. But do not repeat the examples. Give less examples, but don't repeat. ठीक है, अदरवाइज इट सीम्स एज इफ हम गिनती के वो 5 एग्जाम्पल तैयार करके आए थे और वही हमारा आंसर में दे रहे हैं. इसीलिए मैं कह रही हूं पहले से तैयार करके रखो. देख लो, दिस इज व्हाट आई हैव सेड. यू हैव द राइट टू फ्री स्पीच. but your speech should not hurt other people. हम बोलते हैं ना सत्यम वचमी प्रियम वचमी, सत्य भी बोलो जो सामने वाले को सुनने में थोड़ा प्रिय लगे. आप ये नहीं कह सकते कि आई एम स्पीकिंग द ट्रूथ, आई हैव द राइट टू फ्री स्पीच. You can't hurt the sentiments of others. So what is the right to do and what is right to do? That's the difference. Is that very clear for everyone? Okay. You have the right to establish, let us say, big business empire and everything, but your business houses is causing harm to the environment. So that's the difference between what right you have and what is right to do. For example, you are under no legal obligation to donate from your personal wealth. It is absolutely right that you are appropriating all the wealth for your own self. And I'm not saying organizational wealth, I am saying personal wealth. But do you think it is the right thing to do? We should always practice compassion. We should try to help. If you are in a good position, you should actually think of helping the others around. That is what the life is meant for. That should be the purpose and meaning of the life. So are you understanding the examples that we are mentioning? Just have a quick look. It helps in differentiating what is permissible to do and what is not. For example, choosing not to report a crime witnessed by you. Similarly, on matters where law is silent, for example, doctor prescribing branded medicine. Now, you have the right to consume goods. पैसा है, honestly, आप चोरी नहीं कर रहे हो. You are paying for the goods and you are consuming. But do you think culture of consumerism is the right thing to do? Gandhi ji says, na, there can be an end to your need, but not to your greed. When you go for conspicuous consumption, culture of consumption, consumerism, you are denying a certain section of society legal access to the resources, because then there is crisis with respect to the resources. Availability of resources decline. So again, you have the right to consume the good. You have the right to spend your money in the legal manner. But culture of consumerism, do you think it is ethical to do? Give examples. Is that clear? Next, you don't have obligation to donate. We have already discussed this example. I think we have discussed all the examples. You are, since you are having the access, so you are usurping all the benefits for yourself. So it is not left for others to be consumed. For example, during the period of COVID, the people who had the resources were just stocking the, or let us say hoarding the medicines and everything, because they have the ability to pay for it. But in that process, you were denying the vulnerable section the right to the resources. So that becomes the challenge. Absolutely. When there would be a discrepancy between demand and supply, it automatically leads to price rise. Then how you can end? Every day we face dilemma with respect to what are our rights and what is right. Doing what is right requires a lot of commitment, willingness, courage, and the ability to sacrifice oneself for others. Hence, value education is the need of the hour. Is it making sense for everyone? Is the prescription visible? Is the interpretation, explanation, examples visible? That is how the answer has to be written. Absolutely. 10 मार्कर है यार, उतना स्कोप बनता नहीं है, बट आप दे सकते हो. लीगल बट नॉट एथिकल, एथिकल बट नॉट लीगल. Next, if a country is to be corruption free and become the nation of, this question was ad verbatim repeated. It was there in 2017 also, and the same question is asked again. If a country is to be corruption free and become the nation of beautiful minds, I strongly feel there are 3 key societal members who can make the difference. They are father, mother, and teacher. Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam. Is that very clear for everyone? So do you understand the question, what it is saying? So it all starts with the challenges which are confronting the society. So as of now, corruption is one of the big challenge. Fundamentalism is the challenge. Inequality is the challenge. Consumerism is the challenge. Prejudice is the challenge. Or discrimination and violence are the challenges in the society. Now, all these challenges are existing because there is lack of desirable values. Now, the question arises, what are the desirable values? Empathy, compassion, integrity, honesty, courage. These are nothing but desirable values. So how do you get values? Socialization. That's a topic in your syllabus. Role of socialization. So how the values are inculcated in the individual, it is through the process of socialization. And within the process of socialization, there are three important agencies: mother, father, and teacher. So it's a very simple question. You could have just started with a premise where you are identifying the challenges confronting the society. However, in the body of the answer, you have to talk about role of parents, you have to talk about role of teachers. Now see, the choice is yours. Either, if you don't have much space because it's a 10 marker, you can write role of parents and role of teachers. Or you can write role of mother, role of father, role of teacher. Choice is yours. Is that clear? Now, if you have prepared role of socialization wala topic, you know what is socialization, and it leads to inculcation of values. Within that, there are certain mechanisms to bring about socialization: observation, learning, role taking, or for that matter, conditioning or trial and error. Okay? Now, there are different agencies. You have mother, father, and teacher. You have to make use of this content because the content is already available as a part of your syllabus. Now, when we are talking about role of mother, mother plays a very significant role in shaping the value system through the secured attachment. What kind of attachment a mother is having with the child shapes the value system of the child. So if the relationship is warm, if the mothering is consistent, if mother is acting as a rational role model for the child, automatically the desirable values are shaped. For example, courage. For example, high self-efficacy. For example, compassion, cooperation. Automatically, these values are shaped if the mother-child attachment is secured. You can talk about that. In fact, family is the first informal agency of socialization, and mother is the first informal agent of socialization. So you can start with that understanding, and you can write the answer. Similarly, father plays a very significant role in socialization through observation, learning, through conditioning. Conditioning matlab rewards and punishment. So father is playing a very significant role in this context. And then you can talk about, for example, shaping your life goals, shaping your occupational goals, shaping your behavior. Father acts as a role model, especially for the sons. So you can mention about that aspect. For example, leadership quality. For example, determination, discipline. We learn from our fathers. But having said that, father plays a very significant role with respect to behavioral aspect. For example, boy learns gender appropriate behavior from father, and girl learns to make heterosexual adjustment from father. You can mention all these things. But having said that, you can mention examples to justify. For example, जब हम mother की बात कर रहे हैं, we can quote or we can mention the quotation which was given by Abraham Lincoln, who says, whatever I am today and what I will be, I owe that to my angel mother. Role of mother in the life of Abraham Lincoln. For example, role of mother in the life of Mahatma Gandhi. It is being said that the personal ethics, compassion has been imparted in Mahatma Gandhi by his mother. You can cite those examples. Similarly, role of father, Fogart sisters. Father played such an important role in breaking the shackles of patriarchy and playing a sport which was known as a male-dominated sport. It was the courage of the father. So that is what the role of father is. That is why I said a girl learns to make heterosexual adjustment from father. Life goals, determination, courage you are getting from your father. And how do parents do that? आप कुछ points लिख सकते हो. For example, democratic parenting. For example, walking the talk. You are practicing what you are preaching by telling stories to the children, by providing them life lessons. These are the means through which the parents shape the value system of the kids. But important aspect was to give example to justify your answer. It will make your answer different from others. Similarly, role of teacher. Again, role of teacher becomes very important. Teacher is referred as the great role model for the children because teacher is shaping the value system in their impressionable age, growing age. And how does teacher do that? By showing unbiased behavior. Agar teacher khud hi prejudiced hai, automatically that would be reflected in the value system of children. So unbiased treatment, walking the talk. If the teacher is showing commitment, diligence, punctuality, automatically that would be reflected in the behavior of the students. Similarly, motivation, courage, very encouragement. For example, kabhi-kabhi hota hai, teachers enable us to dream. Teachers enable us to realize those dreams. Yahan pe aap example de sakte ho Mitali Raj ka. Mitali Raj has given the credit to her first coach, late Mr. Sampath Kumar. And she mentioned very clearly that if that coach would not have been there, she would have never been able to play cricket. And she would not have been able to take Indian women cricket to new heights. So that is the role of a teacher. Not only shaping your dreams, but also turning it into reality. Is that very clear? Constructive criticism. That's the job of the teacher. Teacher gives you the right kind of guidance. For example, role of Chanakya in the life of Chandragupta Maurya. Give such examples. Give examples from history. Give examples from sports. Give example, Pulela Gopi Chand. The role in various badminton players' life. You can talk about that. Similarly, the role of coach of Sachin Tendulkar. He has given the credit. So you can mention all those things here. Is that very clear? So role of teacher again becomes very important through unbiased treatment, by providing emotional intelligence, by shaping your dreams and turning it into reality, or by character building. So we have established role of mother, father, and teacher. All are equally important. Is it making sense for everyone? And then finally you can conclude. Absolutely yes. Absolutely yes. Bilkul kar sakte ho. Is it clear? We'll take the last question. Read it. Judge your success by what you had to give up in order to get it. इसका मुझे बस मतलब बताओ कि आप क्या इंटरप्रेट कर रहे हो. Read the statement again. नहीं, मन में पढ़ो. Judge your success by what you had to give up in order to get it. Can we take the discussion at two levels? One where you are giving up on the right things, and one where you are not giving up on the right things. For example, what is your interpretation of success? It is very subjective topic. For some, the success could be achievement of material wealth. For some, the success could be power. For some, the success could be prestige. For some, the success could be the desirable outcome. For some, the success could be achievement of the meaning or the purpose of life, or doing welfare for the collective. You can have different interpretation of success. Now, you should measure the barometer of your success should not be on the quantitative aspect, as in what you have achieved, but in the process of achieving that success, what you have given up. So it can be both in the positive sense also and in the negative sense. For example, sometimes the cost of success is so high that the success in itself becomes meaningless. The victory of Samrat Ashok in Kaling War. Did you get my point, what I'm trying to say? Okay. For example, you have achieved a lot of success, but at the cost of your conscience, at the cost of your self-respect. For example, media houses. Many times there are some media houses which are acting as a sycophant, right? So, no, you are gaining popularity. I'm talking about West. There is Murdochization of media. I'm talking in context of West. So there is Murdochization of media or corporatization of media which is happening there. So you are acting like a sycophant. So in that context, do you think you are successful just because you've earned the name for yourself, or you are getting more TRP or more advertisements? You need to see it has come under what cost. Maybe the role of media to act as a watchdog has been compromised and you have become a lapdog. So what is that success? So that becomes, इसीलिए तो Barack Obama ने, in his last speech, which he addressed to the media houses, he said, you should not be a sycophant. You should be skeptic. You should not be complimentary. You should cast a critical eye on us and hold us accountable to those people who have brought us to power. That's the role of media. But in order to achieve the success, what have you compromised? For example, you're working very hard day in, day out to meet the requirements of the capitalist society. But in that process, you have compromised your family relationships. You have compromised your personal relationships. You have compromised your health. You're saying you don't get time, sedentary lifestyle, over dependence on gadgets. Would you term that as a success? So success should be measured. आपको day in, day out promotion मिल रहे हैं. You have one of the best packages, but then you don't have friends to share your success with. You don't have family members to spend your time with. You do not have the right health. Whatever you are earning, you are giving it to the doctors. Will that be termed as a success? You have misappropriated the wealth. You have caused harm, fraud, deceit to others. Volkswagen का emission scandal, जिसको डीजल गेट भी कहते हैं, जहां पे उन्होंने जब भी एमिशन टेस्ट के लिए डीजल कार्स जाती थी तो दे हैव इंस्टॉल्ड अ सॉफ्टवेयर. आप सर्च कर सकते हो गूगल पे, Volkswagen का एमिशन स्कैंडल, उसको डीजल गेट भी कहते हैं. So in that context, what used to happen, they have installed a software in the car that whenever it used to go for the testing with respect to emission, automatically the software used to get activated and the emission used to be controlled. So you were passing that emission test in the very illegal manner, and because of which you were selling cars, you were gaining all the prosperity, but the success has come at the cost of a fraud, deceit, environmental damage. Will this be considered as a success? The success where you have cornered, usurped all the resources for yourself, and you are not doing anything for the society, do you think that it can be counted as a success? Ye sare points. But sometimes the success is so desirable and so worth that any cost is less for that. For example, when you sacrifice your comfort to achieve the success, when you sacrifice the high-paying jobs to fulfill the duty towards the nation, when you sacrifice the opportunities in order to maintain your ethical principles, your integrity, that is a success which is worth. For example, examples of Mahatma Gandhi. He was a barrister. When he returned from London, he could have lived a comfortable life, but he gave up on that comfort to fight for the cause of India's independence. Subhash Chandra Bose, he cleared ICS exam. He also could have led a comfortable life, but he resigned to serve the objective of independence for the nation. Similarly, Bhagat Singh. He was such a young person. He had so much long life ahead of him, but he compromised all of that just to give the message to the people that what India's freedom stands for. Absolutely. You can give innumerable examples. But did you get my point, what I'm just trying to say? That the answer has to be written from both the perspective. Now, when you begin with, you start with the variable component in the definition of success. Or in case you know what Dalai Lama has exactly said. Choice is yours. ये सब नहीं लिखना होता है. ये और है. या तो आप सक्सेस की डेफिनेशन और उसमें वेरिएशन, सब्जेक्टिविटी की बात करो, या फिर आप दलाई लामा के पर्सपेक्टिव की बात करो कि while you are measuring your success, see what you have compromised. ठीक है. Sometimes the trade-off is desirable. For example, you are trading off your comfort. You are delaying your gratification. You are leaving high-paying jobs for ethical principles, and you can give examples. I've given you the examples. Subhash Chandra Bose, Mahatma Gandhi, Bhagat Singh. You can give more examples. All the examples of honest, upright officers. There are many officers who have been tried to be lured by corruption or the offers made to them, but still they don't give up on their integrity. That is what is the success in real terms. It is not about the wealth that you have accumulated. It is the integrity that you have ensured, the character with which for you stand for. So this can be mentioned. But when success comes at a cost. when you are compromising your self-respect, when you are compromising your conscience, when you are causing harm to others, when you are causing damage to environment, when you are causing harm to vulnerable sections, or you are practicing any kind of prejudice, then that success is not desirable. And sometimes the cost is very high. For example, judge your success on moral grounds. Success of Ashoka in Kaling war. The extent of loss of life and property. With respect to corruption. Let us say you have established a developmental project which you believe has provided or brought you a lot of success. But what is the purpose of that success if it has led to tribal displacement? You are causing harm to the vulnerable section. Similarly, sedentary lifestyle or clearing the patch of forest to construct a mall. You are generating job opportunities by constructing a mall, but what are you trading off? Environment. And in long run, this is not a right decision. All of these points can be written. Similarly, how can you conclude? Be kind, work hard, and never compromise your morals. अच्छी बातें लिखो. जितना अच्छा लिखोगे, जितना अच्छा सोचोगे, अच्छे भी बनोगे और मार्क्स भी अच्छे मिलेंगे. ठीक है? See, what I'm just trying to say is that our attitude, value system is being judged through the answers that we write. So please choose your examples very carefully. Is that very clear? ठीक है? So whatever we have discussed so far, is everything clear? ठीक? So on this note, I'll conclude these 6 questions. The basic takeaway which I want you to remember is, please prepare your content. Please do not miss out on any topic which is given in the syllabus. Please refer to PYQs to give you the right kind of guidance, the direction in which the discussion should be taken. Is that very clear? Paraphrasing? Absolutely, yes. Yes, you can do. In fact, you will agree to the statement by paraphrasing. Absolutely, you can do. In fact, one of the style I'll tell you in statement-based question, instead of concluding, in the introduction, we can start with, in the above statement, so-and-so person, whosoever has said, has very rightly said. And then you can interpret the statement. Because I want that it is advisable that instead of paraphrasing in the conclusion, give the prescription. Futuristic vision, what needs to be done. That is better way of that would be disaster management. Because what you will be writing would not be content-wise wrong, but it might not be contextually correct. So that should be the last option. When you cannot think of anything else and you want to complete the paper, because बूंद बूंद से घड़ा भरता है, तो क्या पता एक आध नंबर 2 नंबर मिल जाए. So that's the last thing. But I will never prescribe that. Because that's the last option. तो जब disaster लग रहा है तो उसको manage कैसे करना है, so that's the step. ठीक है? Anything else? Absolutely, yes. Absolutely. Yes. But always remember, it's a 10-marker question. So that background should not compromise on the interpretation of the question. You have the scope of doing by giving the premise and everything in your essay. But how should I put it? That flexibility is not available in a 10-marker question. So ethics ke sare question 10-marker hi aate hain. So you have to keep that in mind, that you should not exceed the word limit. Practice, that is the only advice which I can give. Is that clear? So I'll conclude the discussion on this. So it would be followed by Jatin sir. He would be taking